Cool. All right.
All right, then. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players Podcast. Episode 33. That's 3 11s. Or 11 threes. Math. Oh, man. It has been quite the week in MLS. And unfortunately for myself, I didn't get to watch all the games. I barely watched all the Red Bull game because I was playing chauffeur for a bunch of buddies who were in town. So I didn't get to see a ton of stuff, but we still have a really cool show for you guys today. We will be talking about the ideas. Is MLS a one-man league? Can one player on one team truly make the difference for any team to be successful in this league? We're going to do a little bit of a rundown of Americans abroad. We're going to go and talk about, 6 players you got?
Mm-hmm.
So we got 6 players that we're going to talk about that could be featuring for our United States of America men's national team in the near future. And we will also talk about the question, is MLS too harsh with its red card decisions? We've been applauded for our ability to use VAR really, really well compared to, let's say, the Premier League, right? But every time I watch a game, I feel like somebody's getting a red card for some sort of tackle in basically every game, it feels like. So we'll go through some of the stats and talk about the idea and how VAR works into the games overall. Ooh, excuse me. And, of course, we'll do our little fantasy section and call it a day from there. But before we go into any of that, you know how we do things, scarf or jersey of the week, because Adam is trying to be clever over here, so I'll let him start off.
Yeah. Not clever. I'm just, trying to change things up. That's why I'm not reason.
Clever.
Fun. I have way too many jerseys, so the next 40, 50 episodes we're covered. I don't have to repeat anything. So in honor of both Reggie Cannon and now Albert Elise moving to Portugal, not a Boa Vista kit because I don't know anyone who would own one of those. My Sporting Portugal training kit that I got when I was lucky enough to go over to the stadium when I was studying abroad.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah.
With the pronunciation. Portugal.
Their stadium's really nice.
It must be like you went there once. Were you one of those kids who came back from studying abroad, was like, studying abroad changed my life, and anytime anybody brought up Europe, you were like, I went to Europe once, and then you told them the whole story about how you went to Europe?
No.
You don't have to answer that. I know the answer is yes, but
yeah, I mean it did, but like I'm not one of those guys that just brings it up whenever I can.
Oh man,
it's been a while now.
Sure. We'll let you go. So my scarf of the week and my scarf for the foreseeable future, until we fall out of form, is my Everton kit again, because I don't have any new scarves, but I'm going to keep rocking it until we lose. So you'll see this for the next 36 weeks. Right, that's how many games we have left. Oh man, we are so much fun to watch.
Invincibles.
New Invincibles, baby. We're not gonna get into it because that's not MLS related yet. But I also got my Red Bull knit cap on. It gets a bit chilly over here in Kentucky now, so it's beanie season on the way to work, and brought this one out and figured I'd share it because I don't think it's been on the pod yet.
You didn't hear the rumor that Ancelotti was coming to the Red Bulls?
Oh, man. Don Carlos saving Everton and then saving the Red Bulls back to back. My life. Hook it to my veins.
Man, time to turn the PlayStation off.
Man, we need a ton of help over on this side. But this is not a Red Bull episode, nor is it an Inter Miami episode, nor is it anything like that. We are talking – actually, I lied. This kind of ties into Red Bull a little bit. Does one man truly make the difference for a club? Every time Red Bull lose, and it is way too frequent recently. However, every time they lose, there's always that one guy in the comment section saying, buy a big name DP, get somebody in here who we all know and will tear this league apart. Where are the signings? Where's this? Where that? And I just started coaching girls U14, and the one thing that was told to me, which I didn't really, I kind of believe for the level that I'm playing at, If you have one athletic girl, you can kind of take on the league and hold your own without having too many technically skilled players behind her. And that got me thinking about teams like LAFC, LA Galaxy, Atlanta, these teams that were really, really good before they lost a big player or a big player got hurt. And it made me think, does one person really make a difference? Is this a type of league where you can put one person in there? They might not have all the technical ability around them, like a Zlatan, for example. Or I use Nacho Piatti and Chris Wondolowski as well as some references here. And do they create is their presence enough to get their team points? Are they truly just taking over the game and ruining it for other teams? And I found some really interesting data where I have 6 players here, and the best record they have when they haven't featured is 500. Everybody else is below 500, and it's very, very shocking. We'll go from the bottom, I think, where Chris Wondolowski I took a look at, and I didn't look super hard because he's played way too many games to get numbers for, and missed a lot of games too, especially at the beginning of his career before he kind of blew up. But if you look at Transfer Market and you look at Chris Wondolowski and they tell you the games that he hasn't played, a lot of those scores are highlighted in red because they lost, or they're highlighted in blue because they tied. Very, very infrequently do you see a green score in there from when they've won without him. And that's just a mention for a player who has made his clear mark on this league and is undoubtedly a legend in MLS. And without his presence, his team doesn't do very well. Granted, they don't do very well anyway, right? So it's not a huge distinguisher, but it gets more distinguishing as we go on. And I spoke about Zlatan, for example. So Zlatan, when Zlatan didn't feature, he missed 12 games. The LA Galaxy won 5 of them, drew 1, and lost the other 6. And that's the second closest to 500. Carlos Vela with LAFC won 8, drew 4, lost 8. And when you look at that, you think, okay, LAFC has Diego Rossi, Brian Rodriguez. At the time when they were there, Amanda Diamande, Bradley Wright Phillips. Like, you can look all across our attacking line. They don't necessarily need Carlos Vela to be successful, right? Mark Anthony Kay, another name to throw in there. Atuesta, right? Back to front, they were disgusting last year. They're still pretty decent this year. But then it just goes all downhill from here. You look at Nico Ladero for Seattle. 20 games missed since he's joined. Not including U.S. Open Cup because they play a bunch of no-name teams there, right? 7 wins, 3 draws, 10 losses. When you don't have a playmaker like Ladero in there, you lost half of the games. He's not there. Nacho Piatti, won 12, drew 12, lost 24. Again, Montreal, not super impressive, but 24 out of 48 games he doesn't feature, you don't pick up points. That's huge in terms of the way that guy can make influence on your game, right? And then the last one I have here is Josef Martinez, the big one that drew this comparison, right? No Josef, no party. 7 wins, 8 draws, 15 losses for Atlanta United. And this kind of comes off the back of Atlanta United also losing Pity Martinez, Miguel Almiron, and Ezekiel Barco not getting up to form, right? But when I look at these numbers, and there's actually one more player I want to pull up that I wasn't thinking about, and I'll give you numbers from this real quick because he only played for one team, so I should be able to find it pretty quickly. Stats by club. NYCFC, do you know who I'm looking at?
I mean, clearly it's Frank Lampard.
No, that guy is.
It's David Villa.
1, 2, 3. All right, we'll count wins. We'll count wins first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 wins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 losses. 1, 2, 2 draws. So he's got a better record than the others. But the majority of this data, and the reason I just look up is because he's another one that could change a game just by getting on the field, right? The reason I look at this is, do teams like New York Red Bull, like Chicago Fire, who have gone and bought a lot of different players, but not really a superstar. Colorado Rapids, having a diffy year. San Jose. Do San Jose need to go out and buy one big name player? The answer is no. San Jose need to go and fix their defensive style. We talked about that last episode. I almost wanted to talk about it again this episode. Side note, I looked up and did a little bit of maths, and FC Cincinnati gave up 75 goals in 34 games, right? Something like that. That is 2.205 goals against average per game. San Jose are on pace for like 2.25 right now. And I know the season's shortened and whatever, but they have given up 13 goals in 2 games. And that's, again, how do you – I'm not going to get into it. We talked about it already. Jump back to what we're talking about. Do they need somebody to just say, I'm going to sit at the center mid and I'm going to destroy anybody who comes near me so that I can stop being this I'm going to follow everybody around type of thing? Maybe. What I didn't look at was defensive players. So I only looked at attacking players here, people who step on and make a change in this game. So do they need to buy a big-name striker? Gonzalo Higuain in Miami. Great signing. Is he going to be somebody who can step on and change a game like Zlatan? I don't know. I'm not sure. You shake your head no because you are still hoping Zlatan comes back so you can just talk about him every week.
No,
but
I've just seen, and I'll be the first one to admit I'm wrong. Obviously, as a Miami fan, I want Higuain to do well. I still think of his time watching him at Chelsea when he was just slow to the ball. He didn't really contribute a whole lot going forward. Granted, the pace of the Premier League is, quite a bit quicker than MLS. So, he may come in and slot it in perfectly. But anyone who's kind of hoping that he puts up the numbers he does or did when he was, at Madrid, at Juve, when he was in his prime, at Napoli, I don't think he's the same player.
Interesting. Well, that's not our topic of conversation for today, but it's a good point, right? To me, and to answer this big question, I know we've thrown a lot of stats out there. We've thrown a lot of conversation out there. To answer this big question, I'm going to say MLS is not a league where one player makes a difference unless it is the perfect player. And by that, I mean you look at players like Magnus Eriksson. You look at players like Kaku. You look at players like hell, you can pull up a list of DPs and just go through them and be like, he sucked. And we did this already. We talked about the biggest bust. So you can spend hella money on tons of players, a la Chicago Fire, and it doesn't come together. And that's okay. It's not okay. But that, to me, doesn't mean that you can just buy anybody from any league and have them walk in and change the game. You need to find the right player, and they need to, one, fit your system. And, like I said, Mario Balotelli coming into MLS, unless he's playing at a team that's ready to just sit in, unless he's playing at Vancouver that's just going to sit in, kick it up to him, and let him try and hold it up for Ali Adnan to come through. It won't work, right? So to me, and this is me kind of telling my Red Bull supporters, my fellow Red Bull supporters, understand that there is a process going forward, I'm sure, for Kevin Thilwell to find the proper DP. He knows that it needs to come in, but you can't just go out and buy somebody. You buy the right person, like the 6 people we've mentioned here, you will find success. And that's no question. I should have looked at Giovinco and Pozuelo too. That would have been good. But if you buy the right player, you will find success just through that one player. However, you can also use that money on more TAM deal players and create a system and a team, which is what Red Bull are looking to do. They've done it very poorly, but it's something that you can look to do. And that is my thoughts. I don't believe MLS is a league where one man changes the game unless he is a super, super talent. Like I said, I think you bring Messi or Ronaldo in here. This is obviously that conversation we're having. You bring in somebody like, I'll say somebody like Albert Rusnak, Man City player, high level, really, really decent, has gotten RSL to the playoffs, but hasn't really won anything. And he's been okay, he's been a good player. He hasn't been off the walls amazing. It all depends on the right player. And again, the reason we're talking about this is because there are lots of teams out there that I'm sure are screaming, and my team included, are screaming for that DP, screaming for that big name signing, screaming to make signings like LAFC or Miami, or make these big crazy signings, when realistically you can't just rush into things like this. Because as we mentioned, David Villa is just the one example. Yes, they play on a small field and the system is wild and whatever, but if you put the right team around players, their impact is still felt, but not on a as large of a scale. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the list of players we have up, and I'm trying to think. I think other than Zlatan on this list, I'm probably Wondolowski. So the four I'm looking at are Josef, Carlos Vela, Nico Ladero, and Piatti. I think those four were brought in with a plan in mind. And I know I harp back to it, but to me, it's the most impressive thing I've seen. Let alone from a franchise team, just a team in general. LAFC knew which players they wanted because they knew how they were going to play. So yes, Carlos Vela was probably the top, name on their list, and I'm sure names 2 through 5 probably would have done well. I'm not saying they would have put up the stupid numbers that Carlos Vela has, but there was a system in place around these players. So you can kind of understand why they fit in as well as they did. I think Ladero's kind of the little asterisk because he came in and was player of the year. Or am I thinking of Valeri, his first year?
No, you're thinking of Ladero, who came in halfway through the year.
Okay, and was player of the season.
Took them from a bottom of the West to winning MLS Cup.
Got it. Okay. So he's the exception, but I mean, David Villa was literally the first time, like NYC's first ever player. So they obviously knew who they wanted to bring in. So they signed David Villa and said, who are the 10 guys we can put behind him to get the most out of him? Right.
Yeah.
Like they clearly, at least I hope that was the plan that they had in place. And it works. I mean, granted, they take David Villa out of that team, and New York City was one of the only teams that you mentioned that when he wasn't playing still was okay. Versus you take out Zlatan, and that LA Galaxy team is a dumpster fire. Like, I can't think of how many times Zlatan basically just said, I'm winning us this game. Like, you guys can help me or don't help me. I'm still winning this game for us. So, yeah, I mean, you see Atlanta and how they look without Josef. I mean, granted, everyone else is gone now, but you saw the way that they tried to fit Adam Yan in. They tried to put Barco up top instead of him. They tried to fit I can't think of his name. Jurgen Damm.
No, not Jurgen Damm. The
other guy.
Castro.
No, I'm thinking of Castro. Okay. Castro. Yeah. And while those players are good, like they're not Josef. So I think you're right. That it takes a perfect, quote, perfect player in that system. But I think a lot of these teams have an idea in place. Like the six names we have up here. Well, other than Wando, I'm going to take him out just because he's was born here.
Right.
So the other five were brought in from abroad to be basically the star of their attack. Like they were brought in with the sole purpose of you are going to be our number 9 like caliber player. You're going to be the big name. You're going to want A to sell jerseys, B to put the ball in the back of the net. In Ladero's case, run our midfield and be the conductor of how we play, and that has worked. You look at the Chicago bringing, excuse me, the Bastian Schweinsteigers of the league, where it's like, you will be the big name, you will help us fill seats and sell jerseys, but we're going to play you at center back. Like like it wasn't really like, yeah, cool, you guys got a huge name. Like, I mean, arguably one of the biggest names ever to play in the league, but I don't think that was necessarily a signing to improve Chicago.
Yeah. I'm just looking here, right? Because Red Bull probably aren't going to go spend much money to get somebody on a transfer fee.
Right.
So I'm looking at this thing, the contracts that end at the end of next season, at the end of 21. You've got, and you're looking at players who are trying to fit the system, right? Young, have a lot of potential to grow. And there are lots of players on here that you look at and are like, this might actually work. Players who, Borja Mayoral, 23 years old from Real Madrid, right? Milik from Napoli, 26 years old, right? Like, these aren't players you're going to get, obviously. But there are some Ajax U18 players that they're looking at. Sandro Ramirez from Everton. These players that good, I'm sure. I don't see a lot of them, but who are, and again, I use Red Bull as my example, but who are they going to go out and get?
So not to make this entirely about Red Bull, but genuine curiosity. So let's say Red Bull, and you might not know the answer to this. Let's say Red Bull come to you and say, Andrew, we're gonna, as a Red Bull fan, we're telling you this right now. Our plan is to go out and spend however much money they have in the budget on a DP. Do you know what position you need most right now? Like, genuinely.
It's got to be a striker.
Okay. Because, you could argue that they've brought in, like, with the guys they brought in, like, do they need help elsewhere?
No. Adam, we haven't had a shot on goal in 3 of our last 4 games.
And that's also the striker's fault, but, like, at what point do you also then question further back? Because you're obviously not getting the ball higher up. So then do you look at someone like Ladero, who can play in just behind the striker and spray balls? I mean, I know that's not the way the system they play, but
the system is messed up. I agree. And that's the first thing that needs to change. But the reason why we were so good in other systems was because BWP was always in the right position, right? And that's what we need. We need some experience here. You can't just keep buying 21-year-olds and say, okay, learn through it. You'll be fine. It's not going to work that way. Not a Red Bull episode. We're going to try and stay away. But
I was just curious.
So your final point on this before we move on. Is MLS truly a one-man league? Can somebody just step in and change the game? Is it something where there is a team like Colorado who is – let's not say Colorado. Let's say there's a team like DC United who is one big-name striker away from being MLS Cup contender next year?
I would argue that Wayne Rooney was that player.
Okay.
I mean, you look at the impact he came in. single-handedly winning games. I think of that game against Orlando where he's making a 50-yard run to track back, wins the ball, and plays that long ball to Lucho to win it. I would say yes, it is, because you look at the immediate impact over the season that someone like Zlatan had on that Galaxy team. Like I've said this, I don't know how many times on the podcast before, but without a Zlatan in that team, the Galaxy might finish last in the West that year.
Interesting.
So I think, and Zlatan is the kind of exception to the rule because he's 36, 37, and is just like in better shape than I will probably ever be now at 27. So I think he's kind of the exception. But yeah, I think if the signing gets it right and you bring in someone that will fit the system and gels in, I think that will be the difference. Like that can be the difference maker between you missing playoffs and potentially winning MLS Cup.
Interesting. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the end all be all. Let us know what you think. Tell me specifically. Shoot me a tweet or comment here, and tell us what you think. I want to know what you guys think about this topic. Is this a league where any team can buy one single player and automatically become MLS Cup contenders? I personally don't believe so. I think it needs to be the right fit into a right system. You've heard Adam's take. What is yours? While we let that stir a little bit, let's move on. Talking point number 2.
Yeah, so
Americans abroad.
Yeah, so I wrote this in the script and I was talking to Andrew, but this week in particular seemed like big news for Americans. For U.S. soccer in general, there seemed to be players playing in Europe that were making the headlines, whether it was their performances, whether it was them scoring goals, transfer rumors, like whatever it was. It just seemed like this was a good week for some of the younger names coming through. I know we've had, I don't know how many, 6, 7, 8 at this point from MLS look to make the move abroad. So obviously the Reggie Cannons that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. I know Brian Rodriguez, not American, but another player that looks to be on his way out. I'm trying to think of there. I don't know. There are a couple, but it just every time I was watching games and you look at the teams playing in Europe, it seemed like there was someone with either American so it's like nationality or someone who will, I say hopefully play for the national team one day, assuming our national team can get itself together and actually like qualify for major tournaments. Cough. So yeah. So I'll start with probably the most I said big name, but the one who probably grabbed most of the headlines this week was Weston McKennie. So obviously big money transfer to Juve, which good for him. Schalke look horrible.
They're disgusting.
It's like bad without. I don't know how much. Like I say, without him, I don't know how much. I don't. That's
right. How much of a difference would he?
That's giving him a lot of credit. As good as he was for them.
Yeah.
But I saw that Bayern game the opening week of the season, and they lost 8-0.
Granted,
it's Bayern, yes, but that's bad.
That's besides the point. You're awful.
Yes. So not only does he sign for Juve, and he's now playing with Cristiano Ronaldo and Dybala and just some stupidly talented people, but made his debut. So played 90 minutes in their opening win against Sampdoria. His manager knows not just MLS, but Americans in general. So Andrea Pirlo's now the Juve manager. Obviously has a lot of faith in him, and he was given an 8 out of 10 for his performance that opening game. So obviously he played well. Seemed like he pulled the strings in that 2-man midfield. I remember I was online during the game, so I only saw the last like 10-15 minutes, and Juve fans were really, really excited. Were pleasantly surprised by how well he did. Supposedly that, high energy, high pressing that he offered was something that they lacked last season. That's probably just because Maurizio Sarri's team talks probably put half of the people to sleep.
Yeah.
But I was seeing like comparisons to Edgar Davids, Arturo Vidal. I was like he must have blown every expectation out of the water.
Yeah, right.
So, good for him. It's now just how well he can improve. And that big mentality. So Juve is every game you have to win. Like that. It's just the minimum expectation.
Right, yeah.
So now he's hopefully going to bring that mentality back to the national team. So that, put him in center mid next to Tyler Adams, and I'm okay with that midfield.
I'm really excited for that whole midfield because we actually have attacking midfield options for the first time in what feels like forever with Aronson. Oh, goodness. Gio Reyna, thank you.
Yeah,
Pulisic on the wing.
I think the three-man midfield right now is Aronson, McKinney, and then Tyler Adams behind them.
Right, if Tyler Adams ever stays healthy. But I think Gio Reyna can slide into that that position. You can put you could probably put Pulisic in underneath behind him. There's so much there. Again, there's so much hype that I'm trying not to buy into it because I know supporting the teams that I do, if you buy into hype, you get let down. So I'm trying not to do it. Yes. But man, so much hype.
Yeah. So the next player and someone who I'm going to start watching a little bit more carefully, especially because right now the club he plays for is an actual dumpster fire, and I want to say it's because he's doing really well and not because the state of the first team is what it is right now. It's Conrad De La Fuente. So I hope this kid makes his debut for the national team this year. I don't care if it's in a friendly. I don't care if it's whatever, but lock him up before he chooses to go to play for Spain.
Yeah.
So he made his debut for Barca, 3-1 win in preseason. He will probably spend most of the season with the B team from what it looks like. Which is, he's 17.
But say you're 17 playing on you're basically one step away from one of the best teams in the last 10 years.
I that's fine. I don't expect him to come in and take that one of those starting spots. However, Ronald Koeman seems pretty high on him. So with enough consistent performances for the B team and that attacking lineup looking like Suarez is on his way out, Griezmann's hit and miss, Dembele's never healthy. I could see him getting game time, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
So we will see. It's definitely one I'm going to start keeping an eye on more, especially when he is with the first team.
Yeah.
The third one is myself. No, it's Josh Sargent. Yeah, I figured I'd beat you to it. Josh Sargent's a weird one, and I want to know your thoughts about him. So, he started the season with with Werder Bremen, who I was pretty sure got relegated, but they did not.
No, they survived.
I know, barely. So they started with a 4-1 defeat to Hertha Berlin. So already picking up where they played last season. But all I saw on Twitter from Werder Bremen fans was how weird and different their formation was compared to what they normally play. So supposedly it was almost it was like a 4-3-2-1, almost like a Christmas tree. But Josh Sargent was playing almost as a left mid and not as a true striker. So he didn't get as many touches as you want. You obviously want your striker up top. We both coach, we want our strikers to, I tell my strikers all the time, you need to be the one stretching us. You need to be as high up the field as we can. Cause that's their job. Josh Sargent isn't getting anything out of the game and he's not going to improve playing as left mid.
I wonder, that's an interesting point, right? Is that going to benefit him in the long run when he's still sitting behind, whether it's right or not? still sitting behind Josie Altidore, Gyasi Zardes. I mean, you could probably put a few other names up in the same category as him, right? I haven't watched the USMNT in a long time, so I'm blanking on some names.
So if I thought the national team was going to play with an outside mid, I would say it's probably beneficial to him to learn that position and, maybe increase his playing time that way, because then offer a little bit more versatility to play left mid or striker.
Mm-hmm.
But we're most likely going to play some version of a 4-3-3.
Yep.
And the player, I think, and I'm not comparing him, so before I get roasted for this, this is not me comparing the two players. The only player I can think of off the top of my head that can play as a left winger and as a striker and do both really well is Thierry Henry. What'd you just say? Baby
Jesus.
No.
Yeah, we played him at striker, and he did all right.
Yeah. No, it was Thierry Henry. That's who I was thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I thought we were talking about Americans only.
No. Yeah. I'm just saying that's the versatility I think of when I think of someone who started as a winger, eventually moved into as a striker. Granted, Sargent's going the other way, but if you read Thierry Henry's biography, he says how much spending that time on the wing taught him position awareness, 1v1 skills that when he moved to the middle, he still got. So he knew how to take defenders on 1v1. That did help him. So it'll be interesting. But I don't see him play. We have so many other talents we can play out wide. I don't think he wins that. I think if he gets into this team, it's as a striker.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue with him playing out wide, just because he's still young, and we've seen that he can finish when he needs to. I've seen clips of him already do it. So I am not upset with him getting out there, getting a different view, because who knows, he might be a very, very good winger, which is something outside of Pulisic, who is hurt every other day because the technical staff in England who can't keep him healthy.
Well,
joke club. No, but right, he's always up and down being hurt. So if we have a second option there, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's just my worry is that by the looks of how they played, Werder Bremen's going to be battling relegation again this season. So playing him out of position when you kind of need to be picking up points, I don't know how well that's going to necessarily go for them long term, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, player number 4, baby Jesus himself, Gio Reyna. So I would kill to be in this Dortmund team right now with the number. It just looks like so much fun. He scored his first career goal the other day. Pass from Jude Bellingham, turn, right-footed finish to the bottom corner. Is he
also an American?
Jude Bellingham is English.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. But if you look at the Dortmund team right now and the number of players under 21, 22 that they have, and just the talent that these names have is frankly ridiculous. It's just unfair. And I can't wait to see them eventually play for Bayern in 5 years.
Yeah. I said that to one of my friends, and I was joking. I'm like, oh man, this looks like a really good meme that you would like. You should take a look at it. And she's like, shut up.
Yeah. So you look at not just Gio Reyna, who at 17, whatever he is looks like he's locked in that starting spot in the midfield. You have Jude Bellingham next to him. You have Erling Haaland, who's frankly not human. You have Renier from Madrid, who's on loan, who looked just there are no words to describe how well these 4 played, and they're all younger and better than I will ever be. So at some point, I kind of hope and expect him to get his national team call up to the first team this season, assuming things go back to normal. Especially if he keeps playing the way he plays. this Dortmund team looks like it's going to be minimally, hopefully challenging. I mean, we know how ridiculous Bayern is in that league, but this team looks like it's going to be really good and surprise a lot of people. So if Gio can be part of that and be a regular asset in that team, then all the better for our national team.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm actually going to go out of order for this next one. So I will be the first to apologize. And Zach Steffen, if you're listening, I am sorry. I said when you moved to Man City from the Crew that you would get nowhere remotely close to the City team. And when I watched you at Fortuna Dusseldorf last season when you were on loan, I watched you just get scored on and scored on and scored on and scored on and scored on. Granted, that was probably because the team around you was not that great. You can only save so many as a goalie, but
true.
Yeah, so that's fair. And with City's ridiculous spend every season, I kind of assumed that they, if they ever needed another goalie, whether it was to replace Ederson or to replace Claudio Bravo, they would just bring in somebody.
And they very well still might happen.
They still might. Claudio Bravo looks like he's on his way out. So Zach Steffen was on the bench today for their game against Wolves, which they won 3-1, I believe. But at the moment, looks like he's the backup. So God forbid anything happens to Ederson or they have a cup game, like Zach Steffen very well may play for them, which is huge. Like I think, yes, Brad Friedel, but I'm going to say Tim Howard is the last American to play in the Premier League and actually do well.
Guzan.
I'm still going to go with Tim Howard.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. But Guzan played for Middlesbrough, right? When Valdez.
Borough and Villa, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one played for Tottenham.
Yeah.
That doesn't count in my book.
And
then last but not least, a player who, God, I want him to go to Bayern so badly.
Please.
He has to. He cannot go to Barcelona right now. And I love Barcelona. I want Barcelona to do well, but if given the choice right now, there's no choice. I'm going to Bayern. It's Serginho Dest. So it looks like his time at Ajax is possibly coming to a close, as sad as that is for him. He's grown up in the youth team, in the youth setup there. He's done pretty well, and looks like he's in the middle of a bidding war, either between Bayern, Barca. I saw Juve could be interested in him. He's got some big name teams in for him. And I understand. I know he never played in MLS, didn't really grow up playing in any MLS academy. He pretty much was born in the Netherlands, played for Ajax since he was 5 or whatever. But if Bayern can pull off Alphonso Davies and Serginho Dest as their two fullbacks, I'm taking the win for CONCACAF just as a general win. So all we need now is a Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long transfer to Bayern as well, just for an all CONCACAF back four, and we'll be set.
Yeah.
But I think the harder he'll get less game time at Bayern initially. I think he'll have a harder job breaking into that first team.
Right. It'll be tougher for him to get over Kimmich than he will because Semedo just got sent out.
So Semedo looks like he's on his way out. Yeah. So I think he slots in straight into that Barca team if he goes in. However, Barca are a mess right now.
Right. I'd rather him not go to Barca. I don't know. I might. I'd rather him be at Bayern just to say that we've got an American on Bayern. But yeah.
I mean, Julian Green for a while, and then he didn't.
Remember when he was relevant?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there was a really good tweet sent out by Doyle. I like Doyle's Twitter, man. He's good. He's a good account to follow. But he goes. You got MLS Academy alums playing for Juve, Bayern, Dortmund, and Leipzig this weekend. Probably Lille and Man City at some point. And then you're looking at players like Cannon going to Boa Vista, all these young Americans getting time in big name European teams. Oh man, it's so good. It gives you a little bit of I don't know, just hype, right? I'm trying not to
I
buy.
didn't want to say hope because as U.S. men's national team fans, like we don't have hope.
Never, no more.
So I didn't want to say hope. But we'll see. I mean, it feels as if the talent we have is we probably right now have the most talented crop of players to choose from. It's just, and this is a whole other conversation, whether Greg Berhalter is the person to lead them.
That is another conversation for a much different day.
Yeah.
But you've got, I'm looking here on Transfer Market, just the top rated players play at Chelsea, Juve, Ajax, soon to be Bayern, hopefully, Leipzig, Dortmund, Wolfsburg, Lille, Bremen, Newcastle, City. You got one at Fulham, and then a bunch of others at MLS clubs. But you're looking at this team like there are players here who can play, and they've got so much potential. Not hype. I'm not saying the word hype, not anymore. But you look at it and you're like, you've got players here who are, and if you look at it, the majority of them are all 21, 22, 19, 19, 20, 22, 20, 21, 19. Like, it's coming. And I know we're going to get let down. It's going to happen, but it's coming.
Yeah. And I don't know if this rule applies to MLS or not MLS. CONCACAF teams. I don't know if it's just a UEFA thing, but I did read that they're looking to change the rules. So as long as you've played only one game, not in a major tournament for a national team, you're allowed to switch officially one time. So
That's been a rule.
I don't
the one-time switch.
No, but I think it's I think once you've played for a national team, I don't think you were allowed to switch. I think they're
No, you were because Jesse Rodriguez did that. He played for Mexico. He got capped by Mexico, and then he did a one-time switch to United States.
okay. I didn't read that much into it. I just saw that they were looking to make it a little easier for players to transfer, like switch nationalities. So you think of, I know Oscar wants to play for China now, which is weird.
Yeah.
But there are apparently a lot of Brazilians who want to do that. You think of the ones that are playing in China, which could be good for the growth of that national team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use this, and I don't even know if it's a possibility. I don't know if he has links to the U.S., but I'm going to start the petition for Io Akinola to become an American.
I agree.
So, Io, if you're hearing this, I know there are a bunch of young Canadians that I'm sure you're friends with. I'm sure it's a very exciting young team to be a part of. I don't care. Come play for the U.S. Like, I will buy an Akinola jersey if that's what it takes.
I agree. I think he'd be a lot of fun to have up there. Just another. He looks like a mini Josie, right? Josie's been very, very successful for us. So I say let's go for it. Yeah, man. I think there's a lot of potential here. Lots of youth players that can be really, really good. I mean, you still got Gianluca Busio too, right? 18. George Bello. Io Akinola we talked about. And again, we're looking at transfer market values. And again, this is just a website. I don't know what it really gives you. Where the first page, everybody's over $3 million. You know, last time I saw 30 or 25 Americans with transfer market values over $3 million.
Never.
There's a good trend going on right now. It really is. So, not hyped, but excited. Not hyped, but excited.
Mm-hmm.
moving on to our last real talking point before fantasy. MLS and red cards. Now, we talk a lot about how good we are at VAR, especially when we compare it to EPL because it's the biggest viewed league, right? And we talked about how bad VAR was in England. They finally started picking it up, and we were so good. But I feel like every time I look at an MLS games, there's somebody getting sent off for something really, really silly. And it got me thinking, I don't watch a ton of other leagues. How do we compare to other leagues? And I also want to follow it up with a question of, do you think we are too harsh with our red card decisions, or that VAR is kind of being overused in terms, like they find the little things. And I bring this back to an example. Oh, goodness. It had to be 2017 or 2018. It was an interaction between Kaká and Aurelian Collin. And I know you remember this was a big talking point.
Yeah.
Those guys were like best friends apparently on Orlando when Collin was over there. And there was a little bit of a scrum going on, and Kaká goes and like puts his hands all over Collin's face and head. And Collin turns around when he sees Kaká. They both start laughing. They like hug each other. And they go back and give Kaká a red card for hands to the face. And yes, that's how the rule is written, but is there some sort of give and take here? The game, it must have been like 4-2, 5-2. I don't think there was anything going on in that game that made it anything close. But it was like, is there anything that they can do where we can say, listen, that is the rules, but come on, allow it. So let's start with some stats. In 2019, the EPL had 45 red cards in 380 games. Bundesliga had 55. Ligue 1 had 70. La Liga had 89. Serie A had 102. MLS, because we have the weird playoff schedule and more teams and whatever, had 90 red cards in 421 games. I didn't do the math on that, but I know it's the ratio is it's about 4.67 or a red card every 4.67 games is what we're looking at. And you look at, we'll go 380 divided by 45. That's about eight and a half games per red card, right? So I'd almost double the frequency there. And if we just go back to Serie A, that's like 1 in every 3 games. So we kind of fall in the middle range. But for me, I guess maybe because I watch it more, I just feel like it's almost too frequent for me. And I understand that it's there. This is the exact reason it's there. But I would almost rather them only go in if it's like super clear and obvious. There are a lot of times where you're looking at, okay, this guy's studs were high, but were they high enough? Was there enough force? Was it late enough? All these little factors that play into it that you didn't see it in real time, and he didn't make any contact with the guy either. Like, but then you also go back and you see like the Felipe Martins challenge on Wanyama, and he put all 8 studs straight into his quad, and it's like you missed that one. So I would love to see inside. I know they did this at the beginning of the MLS's back tournament. I'd love to see inside the VAR booth and kind of see where they're going with this, because I think it's a lot, and I don't think it's awful. I just would rather see them say, hey, ref, you make a decision here. Come look at the monitor, and this is what we're seeing. What do you think? Instead of saying, hey, this is a red card. Come at the monitor. Let me show you, and make that call. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up. So how many – wasn't it a thing for the World Cup that we didn't have referees from our country go? Or am I making that up?
No, we had in
2018.
It might have been, because don't they only bring referees from the competing nations?
I don't think so. Maybe,
Nope, just
but
kidding. Geiger was there.
Okay, so we had one.
Let me see. Two pro referees. It was Geiger and Jair Marufo.
Okay, so two. So I think that's part of it. So I think we need to look at how our referees are being trained and taught. Whether they're using VAR too often, not enough, whatever. But like that Wanyama one we spoke about, like that was the example I was going to give. You and I were watching that game live, and we were like, I don't like he just tried to break his leg in half. Like on what planet is that not a red card?
Yeah.
Like all the VAR in the world should have been like you just send him off.
But here's the thing. Here's what I'll say is we are the focal point right now of VAR. We implemented it first correctly. A lot of people got it before us, but we did it right the first time. And I think that is the issue, is that we don't see any wiggle room in what we have to review, and I think we need to.
I think as a country, we were always going to be the ones to do it correctly, because if you look at the other sports that we already have established that use video refereeing, so you think of the challenge flags in football, you think of, whatever in basketball and baseball. Our country loves to show 100 replays, how the referees easily accessible to them. Yeah, like it was only a matter of time once we introduced it in soccer for us to kind of be the front runners. Whether or not we overuse it, underuse it is another issue. And I don't want to. This is going to sound like I'm bashing the league, and it's not how I mean it. I think part of the reason that we have so many red cards is because of the level. So I don't think, I think in a more competitive league, to an extent, you will see fewer red cards. You look at the EPL, so I'll use the Chelsea-Liverpool game the other day. So other than the fact that it was the most blatant foul on Christensen, like there was no way that wasn't a red card. It was actually almost given as a yellow. So it's clear as day. It was last man. Christensen essentially rugby tackles him, has both arms around Mane, and takes him down. People can argue that Kepa was going to get that ball anyway. I say you haven't seen Kepa enough. He was not getting that ball. But the fact that the EPL ref was going to give a yellow, and only after looking at like his initial response was not to give a red card for a straight red card, like textbook red card. So I think there's a mental, I don't want to say block, but like his initial thought was, I don't want to ruin this game between two of the top teams in the league with a red card, even though it's a clear red card. Like I want to do everything in my power to make this game entertaining. It's kind of only when he went over the VAR and he came back and was like, oh, there's literally no way I can give this as a yellow without like getting roasted after this game.
Right.
Versus MLS, like you think of the one this weekend with Kyoto, like he literally just punched somebody in the back of the head. Like the referee saw it, went over to the VAR just to double check, sees that guy comes in, and Kyoto just roundhouse punches him in the back of the head, and he comes over and sends him off. Like it's little things like that where I don't necessarily think the referees are worried about making this competitive, like losing that competitiveness in our league versus the millions and millions and millions of pounds that are at stake if Chelsea lose that game to Liverpool potentially.
That's an interesting view, and I'll say less about they don't care about making it less competitive, but I will say that the level in terms of defending and the level in terms of just pure quality, and the way that we play with such high pressure and strong tackles, and just the mindset of every player in MLS is I'm going to be stronger than you, and I'm gonna, because there's no real technical for a lot of them. But yeah, so that I like that a lot, and that's a really good point. But yeah, it was just something that came to my attention while I was watching some games, and I feel like every day I'm looking up, and this actually started because RSL was getting red card basically every game,
Yeah.
and I was just kind of curious as to why, and I always thought about it that way. So
you're taught from a young age in our country to be aggressive, to go after the ball, to not go through the guy and try to hurt people, but to get stuck in and be tackle hard essentially. Versus in Serie A, I think young kids growing up are taught to read the game. Like you don't want Paolo Maldini literally used to say, if I have to make a tackle, I've already made a mistake. Like his whole game was based on reading the game where he should be, and he didn't have to try to murder people every time he tried to win the ball. Like if he was in the right place and he was doing what he should be in that situation, he was going to win the ball.
Yeah.
So
well, and like I said, and that's I like that quote a lot. But I go back to the RSL thing. I don't know why I didn't make a note of it, but this is actually the reason why I brought it up. And you look at Kyle Beckerman got a red card against Vancouver, and I'm watching it back, and it's on a corner, and first of all, it was given as a second yellow, which I didn't think you could do. I thought it was only straight reds. However, they go to review, and Hassall goes to claim the ball, jumps up, drops it in front of him. Beckerman puts his foot out as he's going to get the ball that got dropped, and he's off balance because he's kind of poking at it. And it either he falls straight backwards or on his sides, or he tries to put his foot down. And it looks like Hassall's head is right underneath. There's no intention. He's just trying to keep his balance, and it catches him. They called Drew Fisher over. Drew Fisher's like, okay, I'm going to go trot over my bald head. I'm going to go trot over. I'm going to look at this monitor. He looks at the monitor. He's standing there, and he's staring there. He looks at it. He looks at it. He looks at it. And he sees this little clip of the back, and he goes back, and he gives a second yellow, which, again, I didn't think you could do. But it's little things like that where there was clearly no intention. Yes, he made contact with the keeper's head with his foot, but the keeper's on the ground, and there's, keeper dropped the ball. It's a free ball after that. They can go for it, and they made a contact because it was an incident. But I think we could be a little more harsh in what we give for red cards, but just a general thought-provoking question. We're asking you the same question, listeners, if you've gotten to this point. What do you think about that? Do you think we should have a little bit more strict tendencies when it comes to calling red cards with VAR? Let us know.
Cool. Yeah. Last but not least, we'll go into our fantasy section. So first off, top scorers for our podcast league. We actually had 2 this week. So we had a two-way tie with 115 points. So first off, well done for hitting triple digits. We had a tie between Team Chariots of Dwyer and FC Less Than Awesome. So Luke Tremlett from Chariots of Dwyer, well done. And then Hunter from FC Less Than Awesome. I don't have your last name, so get in contact with us, and I will properly shout you out next week. But well done to you two. Andrew, how'd you do this week?
Freaking great, man. I had some really good points that I got in. NYC let me down, which doesn't shock me. Seattle let me down. Seattle go out and score a ton of goals, right? Was this a game they scored a ton, or did they get shut out?
They got shut out.
All right, they got shut out. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking of
last week.
No, I was thinking of Leicester this week on my EPL fantasy. Jamie Vardy and Iosi Perez, they scored 4 goals, and neither of them had a goal or an assist. Yep. Jordan Morris let me down. Anton Tinnerholm let me down, but everybody else, and Kyle Duncan let me down, but that was stupid of me for picking a Red Bull as a Red Bull defender. Yep. And Luis Robles let me down. And I mentioned in the last week that I put a little bit too much faith in teams that I really wasn't super strong on, and that team was Inter Miami. And they almost had a clean sheet too. I almost got paid out big. But Shabilko scored for me. Zardes scored for me. Valeri, my captain, went off. Jovan Jones had a 7-point day, and Chris Mueller had a really good day. And then Jan Gregus off the bench with 5 points. um, did me pretty decent.
Yeah. So you ended with just shy of 100, so 99 points.
99.
Yeah. You're sitting at 30th overall in our league
Yeah,
with 514 points.
that's right.
I was right behind you, so I ended with 94. I want to point out that it was 94 points without Valeri or Ladero. So
Yeah, Romel Kyoto.
I had Roma
Captain
Kyoto.
Kyoto.
Captain Kyoto. So I think this was the first week this season that my captain got me over 10 points. So
Mine
first
too.
off, well done. Well, yeah. Well, your captain scored half of your fantasy points for you this week.
Yeah, I did.
That's why I wanted to say that I did 94 points without the two biggest scorers as my captain. So Captain Kyoto, who thankfully did well enough that first game, getting 18 points, scoring twice. Granted, he scored the first game and then decided to get sent off. So I was glad that he did well enough the first game that I didn't have to bite the bullet and lose those points for that second match. Hara from FC Dallas and Chris Mueller, my other two top scorers with 12 points each. I know I said that what's the other guy from Dallas last week that I said was my differential?
Oh, I don't remember. The new guy.
The new guy. He didn't start the first game, so I swapped into Hara, who did very well.
There you go.
So
I am 3 points behind Connor in the season.
And 30
and
off
I
of
am
me. 32 off of me.
32 off you.
Yeah, so
which is makeable. I can make that up.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in 19th overall, 546 points. So not too bad. But Andrew, must have and differential for this week.
Man, you got to go with Chris Mueller. This guy can't stop freaking scoring. He is Orlando's best attacking piece, without any questions. And on the transfer note, I have no idea how this guy doesn't have any rumors flying around him. You got, Reggie Cannon and Brendan Aronson, all these guys. Chris Mueller is outperforming all of them, and nobody's had a peep about where he's going to be. And that's just a shame because he is so good. I think he deserves a lot more than what he's getting, and I would really hope to see something in the near future about where he'll be. But yeah, that is my sneaky pick for that one. Or no, that's my must-have. Excuse me, sorry.
That's your must-have.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you at all worried? So their first game's at Sporting Kansas City, and then they go away at FC Dallas.
No,
not the easiest matchups this week.
No, because this is MLS 2020 and nothing makes sense.
Okay,
so Orlando are going to go out there and drop 7 on both of them, and Mueller's going to just run off.
Okay, fair. Mine is fan favorite Kasper Schmeichel. Coming off a 2-goal game. Granted, Montreal were down most of it, but still grabbing 2 goals, doing well. And now faces an FCC team and a Miami team. So 2 teams with less than stellar defensive records. I think Philly should get 6 points out of this weekend. And it'll be mostly because of him putting the ball in the back of the net. So that's mine. I think that's probably a safe bet.
Yeah, I think you're all right in that one.
Santos. Santos is the other one. I think he's a tad bit cheaper. So
yeah, I'm looking for maybe some cheap options in midfield.
Okay. So yeah, anyone from Philly, I would say, is probably a good shout in your team this week, whether that's attacking or defensive wise.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm now looking at my team. This is the issue when we do this. The good thing about doing this on Monday is it reminds me to set my team. The bad thing is while we're recording, I'm setting my team. So I'm looking at it and I can't focus.
Yeah, I haven't set my team yet. Differential, do you have one?
I do have one, and his name is I had one and I got rid of him, and I might bring him back. Yeah, I'll bring him back. His name is Gary Mackay-Stevens, who during a double game week usually gets the second game, and that's against Cincinnati at home. So I'm thinking at Red Bull Arena.
I was about to say it's not at home.
Yeah, no. At Red Bull Arena, I think he'll have a decent showing, and I look forward to seeing what he can do. I've got him as a switcheroo right now, and I hope he can put something up.
Interesting. Who did they play that first game?
Toronto.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. I have one. So my differential is just, I'm going to tell everyone right now listening, if you put him in your team, just be sure to check the lineups.
Yep.
He should start based on, current form and how well he's doing, but he's just one of those that like could suffer from the rotation. He will start one of these 2 games this week, I think. So it's just, whether you want to take the risk on only maybe 1 game versus out of the 2, or you may get lucky and he may start both. It's Jeremy Ebobisse out of Portland. So this is more for their second match. They're playing a Vancouver team that just lost Yordi Reyna, basically doesn't have anyone noticeable except for Ali Adnan. I mean, and Cavallini, I guess, but he's at the other end of the field. Like, Ali Adnan's been playing left mid, so basically just leaves Ebobisse free to terrorize that back line all he wants. First game, they play Seattle, so I'm not expecting a whole lot out of that game. And I'd be honestly surprised if that's the game he doesn't start. So, like, I'm not expecting anything out of that first game. This is more how badly can they destroy Vancouver, especially coming off a 6-1 victory at San Jose.
Yeah. We really should have put up any striker who plays San Jose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which, who does San Jose play this week?
They play
Colorado.
They go away to Colorado and away to LAFC. So.
I might need to rethink my team here a little bit.
It's tempting. If Vela was in your team, I would say Vela 100,000% will be my captain this week, just for that last game alone. But I'll have to look at like a Rossi or who else.
Rodriguez is the other one, or BWP. Man.
BWP might be the sneaky one.
That might be a sneaky one.
I have an outside shot, and it's actually someone Andrew mentioned before, and I want to see his thoughts. Is Kyle Duncan like a weird, like super differential?
No, he's too expensive on a really bad team to make it a really cheeky differential.
Okay. The only reason I say that is because I don't think Higuain will play this week for Miami. I assume he still has to quarantine and go through all of that before he's allowed to play.
He's been training.
He has been training. I don't know whether he plays or not. So that was kind of my thinking. So they play a Miami team that at times hasn't looked great going forward. And then they play a Montreal team that doesn't have Kyoto because he's serving a suspension.
Right.
I assume. I don't think it was a 1 game, so I assume he still will be out after the game against New England.
Interesting.
But Kyle Duncan, if you're going to play a Red Bull, is literally the only one I would even consider. So.
All right.
That was basically my thought. But, yeah.
Very, very interesting. I just saw a post where Amr Tariq posted a picture of him in the Egyptian team with Mo Salah and Mohamed El Nene, and he just looked really terrifying. So somebody start that man. Can't get any worse than what we got already, right?
Captain Tariq.
No. All right. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Nah.
No, I think we've gone a little bit long for question of the week. So we'll bring that up next week. But to anybody who's gotten this far, thanks for sticking around and listening to us. Thanks for listening to us chat a little bit. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts on what we've been talking about, because that's really what we're talking about. We want to hear what you have to say. What do you think about red cards? What do you think about the Americans abroad? What do you think about if MLS is truly a team where you can just sign one player and be automatically in contention for MLS Cup? Let us know. Make sure you're following us on all forms of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere you get podcasts, so you know when we go live. We have been slacking a little bit on YouTube and Instagram, so we're going to pick that up best we can, and make sure you know when we're posting. But until then, Adam, anything come to mind before we cut it? Alrighty. Thanks for joining us again. We have been the Designated Players Podcast. This has been another episode of the Designated Players Podcast, and we will see you next time. See ya.